morning and welcome to Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. On today's learning episode, we'll be discussing about theoretical perspective of culture and society. Let's identify the learning objectives. At the end of the learning episode, you are expected to analyze the different forms of interaction present in society, describe the construction of society through the hidden rules of society, interpret the contribution of societal development towards formulation of the theoretical perspective. Let us have our pretest prior to our lesson for this morning. Choose the letter of the best answer by writing it on a separate sheet of paper. Remember, you are given 5 seconds to answer each question. Question number 1. It is regarded as an adaptive response to some tension within the social system. The choices are A. Social change, B. Cultural change, C. Social order, D. Conflict. The correct answer is C. Social order. Question number 2. It can be applied to the use of social networking sites and how one's identity is presented on those sites. The choices are A. Social order, B. Symbolic interactionism, C. Structural functionalism, or D. Conflict theory. The correct answer is B. Symbolic interactionism. Question number 3. It is always made of persons and their grouping. The choices are A. Norms, B. Values, C. Culture, D. Society. The correct answer is D. Society. Fourth question. The modern philosopher who introduced the symbolic interactionism to the American sociology in the 1920s. The choices are A. Karl Marx, B. Friedrich Engels, C. Emil Durkheim, or letter D. George Schmidt. The correct answer is letter D. George Schmidt. Fifth and final question. It is a theory that society is in a state of perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources. The choices are A. Structural functionalism, B. Symbolic interactionism, C. Conflict theory, D. Social order. The correct answer is letter C. Conflict theory. Let us have a recap before the lesson. Let us read the direction. It has something to do with our topic for today's lesson. Write your answer and space after each number. Characteristic of culture. The correct answer is social group. Can you guess the second word? Correct, it's language. Third word. Guess you guys it right. It is religion. Theoretical perspective of culture and society. There are so many aspects of culture, and although many are widely accepted, not all sociologists agreed on the way that culture should be studied. Let's examine three of the most common theoretical approaches used to analyze culture, namely structural functionalism, social conflict, and symbolic interactionism. Structural functionalism. In sociology and other social sciences, a school of thought according to which each of the institution, relationship, roles, and norms that together constitute a society serves a purpose, and each is indispensable for the continued existence of the others and of society as a whole. That is structural functionalism. Let's proceed to conflict theory. It was first purported by Karl Marx. It is a theory that society is in a state of perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources. Conflict theory holds that social order is maintained by domination and power, rather than consensus and conformity. According to the conflict theory, those with wealth and power try to hold on to it by any means possible, chiefly by suppressing the poor and the powerless. A basic premise of conflict theory is that individuals and groups within society will work to maximize their own benefits. Conflict theory focuses on the competition between groups within society over limited resources. Conflict theory views social and economic institutions as tools of the struggles between groups or classes, used to maintain inequality and the dominance of the ruling class. Marxist conflict theory sees society as divided along lines of economic class between the proletarian working class and the bourgeois ruling class. Later version of conflict theory look at other dimensions of conflict among capitalist factions and between various social, religious, and other types of groups. Meanwhile, symbolic interactionism is a sociological theory that develops some practical consideration and alludes to people's particular utilization of dialect to make images and normal implication for deduction and correspondence with others. In other words, it is a frame of reference to better understand how individuals interact with one another. It is to create symbolic worlds and in return, how this world shapes individual behaviors. It is a framework that helps understand how society is preserved and created through repeated interaction between individuals. Let us all remember, a society cannot exist apart from culture. A society is always made of persons and their grouping. People carry and transmit culture, but they are not culture. No culture can exist except as is embodied in a human society. No society can operate without cultural directives, like matter and energy, like mud and pine. Culture and society are interdependent and interactive, yet they express different aspects of the human situation. One must always keep in mind the interdependence and the reciprocal relationship between culture and society. Each is a distinguishable concept in which the pattern and organization of the whole is more important than any of the component parts. Let us now proceed to our activities. Have you ever played the modified true or false? Write true if the statement is correct, and if it's false, replace the underlined word by writing your answer on any sheet of paper. Can we start now? Number 1. Karl Marx is one of a purported conflict theory. The answer is true. Structural functionalism is also called symbolic interaction perspective. The correct answer is symbolic interactionism. Number 3. Conflict theory focuses on the competition between groups within society over limited resources. The answer is true. Number 4. Symbolic interactionism traces its origin to George Smith, which is also true. Number 5 and final number, society's categorization of its people into groups based on socioeconomic factors. The answer is true. Let's proceed now to another activity. Complete the statement to give meaning and sense of such by underlining the words enclosed. Blank is the relative social position of person within a social group, category, geographic region, or social unit. The correct answer is stratification. Number 2. Blank focuses on the competition between groups within society over limited resources. Correct answer is conflict theory. Number 3. Blank regarded as an adaptive response to some tension within the social system. The correct answer is cultural. Number 4. Society's categorization of its people into groups based on. The correct answer is socioeconomic factors. Final question. People carry and transmit blank. The correct answer is culture. Let us have a wrap up. I know that you have learned a lot from today's lesson. Now let's give it one more boost. How well did you learn? Let us now check how well did you learn or understand our lesson from the theoretical perspective of culture and society. Cite an example wherein the following theoretical perspective can be seen in a society. You may write your answer on a separate sheet of paper later after the video. Under valuing, write an essay of which of the theoretical perspective best suits the Filipino society. I'm sure you know about any experience about our society. You may use the rubric below as your guide. And now our pause test. Read and analyze each statement and identify what is asked or described in each item. Write the letter of the correct answer in your notebook. Question number 1. It is regarded as an adaptive response to some tension within the social system. The choices are A. Social change, B. Cultural change, C. Social order, D. Conflict. The correct answer is C. Social order. Question number 2. It can be applied to the use of social networking sites and how one's identity is presented on those sites. The choices are A. Social order, B. Structural functionalism, C. Symbolic interactionism, or D. Conflict theory. The correct answer is B. Structural functionalism. Question number 3. It is always made of persons and their grouping. The choices are A. Norms, B. Values, C. Culture, D. Society. The correct answer is letter C. Culture. Fourth question. The modern philosopher who introduced the symbolic interactionism to the American sociology in the 1920s. The choices are A. Karl Marx, B. Friedrich Engels, C. Emil Durkheim, or D. George Smith. The correct answer is D. George Smith. Final question for our lesson for this morning. It is a theory that society is in a conflict, a perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources. The choices are A. Structural functionalism, B. Symbolic interactionism, C. Social order, D. Conflict theory. The correct answer is D. Conflict theory. I guess you have learned a lot from our lesson this morning. Until next time, see you!